Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cliff Robbins. I'm the Senior Business Advisor here with the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center. Welcome to our webinar about EIDL updates. Few housekeeping items, if I may. Please remain muted during the presentation. And if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box and we will review them at the end of the presentation. And just want to remind everybody that all of the registered attendees will receive a copy of the session recording and a list of resources that can help you out further. I'd like to start off by introducing Adelsa Mendez. Adelsa is the Business Assistant Manager at the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, and she's going to briefly speak about their programs. Adelsa, please take it away.
Greetings all. This is a great pleasure to see so many people with such a short notice join us for this event. My name is Adelsa Mendez. I'm the Business Assistance Manager at the city of Brockton, and I'm with the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, which is a quasi-public agency, and whose main mission is the development and community development and economic revitalization, especially for the benefit of low and moderate income households and areas of Brockton. With the Business Assistance Manager, the program aims to reach out to each one of you, being able to provide assistance, connect you with the resource. We're working closely with Mayor Sullivan on the Open for Business initiative. I hope all of the business here in the app, the Brockton app, is the Brockton, Massachusetts City of Champions app. Make sure you take advantage of this great resource. We're trying to do our best really to connect you with the resource available. And this event today is part of what we're doing. We hope that you take advantage of it and you get all the information, and we'll still be connected to provide you some more information if you need it. I want to let you know also that we will be celebrating on December 13th the great woman of Brockton, the woman-owned business in Brockton. We have a lot of woman-owned business in Brockton, and we want to make sure that we celebrate, especially the ones that are open, were brave enough to open during the pandemic. And so we really want to emphasize that and recognize and also hear from you about the challenge and how we can support you. This is just a great event, and I hope you all take the great advantage of it. And we here all to support. This is a partnership, and we are in the process of building each day more partnership for the best interests of the small business in Brockton and the entire Brockton business community. Thank you.
Adelsa, thank you very much. I'd also like to mention Catherine Schofield, she's the program and events coordinator with the Metro South Chamber, and they are also our hosts. And I'd like to thank them for hosting this webinar, which will be very informative. I'd also like now to introduce a lady with whom I've worked for many years, Jill Beresford. She is also senior business. I don't know, you hate that word senior, Jill? I do.
Yeah, for somebody so young, it really doesn't fit.
I know, it's so strange. Anyway, we're both senior business advisors with the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center, and she'll give you a little overview of what we do here at the MSBDC. Jill.
Hi, everybody. We are part of a national organization that has about 1,000 business advisors across the country called the American Small Business Development Centers. We are paid advisors, and our funding comes from both the Small Business Administration and the local state governments that we work for. So Cliff and I get our salaries from Massachusetts. Cliff and I are both in the same territory in the southeast part of the state, which covers Brockton, and I tend to be the person you would mostly deal with. Our services cover everything that a small business believes it needs, from thinking about it as an idea to exit strategies, marketing, helping getting financing, all that kind of thing. The service to you is free. And you can come once, or you can come for years on end. And we have clients, I've been doing this for 7 years, and I have clients that have been with me once a month, every 7 years, reviewing their financials and making changes to their business plans. So I cannot encourage you enough to reach out to this very valuable service and get the advising that you need on a regular basis for your business to help you in any area that you need to either get started right through to growth, right through to deciding to leave and sell the business. And I think somebody put the information in the chat, so you'll know where to find us. Thanks, Cliff.
Jill, thank you very much. Well said. And now, a little drum roll, please, from somebody. The star of the show, I'd like to introduce Ili Spahiu. He is the Assistant District Director for Lender Directions at the Massachusetts District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA. Eli will give us a presentation and an update on the EIDL program. Eli, welcome, sir. Good to see you again.
It's great to be seeing Cliff, and it's great to be with all of you, and it's great to see so many folks joining us today. This is a great group of resources, partners of the SBA, and without you guys, we really could not get the message out. We could not help the numerous people that we've been able to help over the course of this, at least, a year and a half plus with the pandemic and the different, programs we've had in response, to COVID-19. So today I do want to share some numbers first and foremost. I know that many people, everyone probably, hears that there's been some challenges with the program, this particular program, the COVID EIDL, COVID-19 EIDL program. EIDL stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. For those who don't know what it is we're talking about here, this is a direct program with the SBA. But I just wanted to start off with the good news, right? So first and foremost, about 97% of all applications are getting approved with no hiccups. That's just amazing when you consider the large number of units, right? There is that small percentage of applicants that are experiencing issues. They're stuck in whatever, bottleneck, whatever issues they may be experiencing. And of course, we all, we being the folks here at the SBA, our resource partners who are on the call today and help small businesses like yourselves. We only hear of the problem loans. Folks rarely call us to say, hey, I got my loan, I got my money, everything's good, right? We only hear of the folks that are stuck and they're experiencing some sort of a glitch, whether it's a system, whether it's an IRS 45060, whether it's a funding glitch, whatever the case may be, right? But we're here to help. We're here to get folks across the finish line. And the other piece of good news that I want to share with you all is that we still have funding available. So the program deadline is December 31st of 2021. We just learned yesterday that we have funding based on the current approval rate, right? We have funding to take us all the way through December 31st. And another positive piece of news that I do want to share with everyone that perhaps has their application still pending is that applications that are received by December 31st of 2021 and are not funded, but there is funding available, we will continue to process those applications, past the deadline, all the way through the funding when the funding runs out. Okay, so I think that's all positive news, I would say. And on this slide again, this is updated as of yesterday. You see here all the approvals nationwide here in the region and in Massachusetts specifically, right? So here we've got, Region 1, we count for about 60% of the approvals. So if you look at, Region 1 approvals, almost $12 billion, 142,000 businesses were helped through this program. Massachusetts businesses are about $5.5 billion by dollars, and I think it's close to 60% by units. Same thing with the targeted EIDL advance funds. So for those of you that are not too familiar with the program, this program, right, it's a program administered directly through the SBA. You apply online on our website. There's no need for a third party. There's no need for a bank. If somebody tells you that they'll help you get a loan and they'll charge you a fee, you don't have to pay the fee. There is plenty of free services available, assistance available to help you through this process. And obviously, we don't want folks to be taken advantage of for something that is truly your taxpayer dollars, right? So also, I do want to mention that there's been a few bad actors out there. There's been some fraud with this program, especially during 2020 when the program had fewer checks and balances in place. Things have changed quite a bit, so there's a few added requirements for 2021, and I'm sure many of you are by now familiar with that. But what I did want to clarify for folks is that this one application allows the access to potentially three benefits. So one is the loan, which we're going to be talking about, and it's still available. The other one is the targeted advance grant program, which is again only available for businesses that are located in a low to moderate income community based on a census tract, and we have a map available for you all, and can demonstrate that their economic injury is 30% or greater for 2020 as compared to 2019, or for any 8-week period in 2020 as compared to the same 8-week period in 2019. Okay, so the first requirement is that the business is located in a low to moderate income community. So plug in the address on that mapping tool we have available on our website, and I would appreciate it if one of our partners could share on the chat the link to our mapping tool for folks to have it. If your business again can demonstrate that you have had a reduction in the revenues of greater than 30% for 2020 as compared to 2019, or that 8-week window, then you would be eligible for the grant program. Now, keep in mind that for those individuals who received, if you could, folks, just manage your devices and mute yourselves. We're getting some feedback here on the line, but again, just want to reiterate the point that we're all set, folks. Okay, so just wanted to again make the point that the supplemental targeted advance fund is also available. It is the only program that's not going to get processed past December 31st of 2021. So the supplemental targeted advance must be approved, okay, by December 31st of this year. Keep in mind that that is only available for those same borrowers who are located in a low income community, but can demonstrate a 50% or greater reduction in revenues for either the full, fiscal year 20 as compared to 19, or an 8-week window in 2020 as compared to the same 8-week period in 2019. So again, fairly easy. It's only designed for the smallest of the small businesses, the hardest hit industries and businesses, right? Those who lost more than 50% of their revenues. And only businesses with 10 or fewer employees actually would qualify for the supplemental targeted advance fund. So you see here, there's been a good number of businesses that qualified for it. I believe half of those units or dollars, actually more than half of the dollars are in Massachusetts of Region 1 dollars. So it's about 37 million, I think, in approvals here in Massachusetts, and with the targeted EIDL advance funds, I believe it is about 65 million that were approved here in Massachusetts. All right, so let's talk about the loan program again. So we call this patient capital, right? So I'm a lender by trade. I work with small businesses and bankers throughout the Commonwealth here. So commercial lenders, whereas a conventional loan program, would charge a higher interest rate. What this program does, it charges, a below market rate of 3.75%, and it has a repayment of 30 years, right? So 30-year repayment compared to most commercial, loans don't exceed 10 years unless they're secured by real estate or, machinery and equipment, okay? So on top of that, we are offering a full 2-year deferment to borrowers who received a COVID EIDL loan. Now, keep in mind, because this program was, when it was first launched, they had a cap of $150,000, which went up to $500,000, which went up to $2 million. And we're going to talk about those timelines in a second. The deferment period starts from day one, okay? So if your loan was increased, from 150 over the summer to $500,000, and then currently is in process to receive the full 2 million or whatever the maximum you're eligible for based on your 2019 returns, the deferment period starts from the origination date, okay, on your loan. So again, what we're telling folks is that obviously, although the interest does accrue during the deferment period, this is a loan you definitely would want to take advantage of. You can always prepay it, without a penalty. The only thing you may be subject to would be that interest, the accrued interest for the time that you kept the loan. Obviously, no immediate cash flow to your business, right? And again, there's still a lot of uncertainty out there, especially given this latest, variant of the pandemic. So, of the virus, I should say. So. It's always a good idea, even if you haven't applied, put in an application as long as it's in by December 31st of 2021. Obviously, we will continue to process those applications, with, for as long as there's funding available past 12/31, if that funding takes us, beyond the due date on the program or the end date of the program. So we're going to talk about the use of loan proceeds here on the program as well. So it's pretty generous. If you think about it, folks can use this money for working capital needs, payroll, rents, inventory, right? Whatever you can think of, variable costs. And there were some changes made. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide or two. Those changes were made as of September 8th, and they make this program a lot more beneficial. So paying business debt, prepayments, as well as regularly scheduled monthly payments make this a lot more attractive of a program than it was previously. All righty. So again, just want to encourage folks. I do see there are some comments on the chat. Just want to encourage you to type in your questions. We will allow plenty of time at the end to go over those questions for you, but I'm sure some of those questions may be addressed through the slides I'm going to go through. And I'm going to keep the slides at a minimum, I promise you. So we will allow for the most time, allocated for questions and answers. So again, as of September 8th, the cap on the program was increased from $500,000 to $2 million. Now, businesses are, I should say most businesses, are subject to a cap based on their gross profit margin reported on their 2019 tax returns, okay? So the math is fairly simple. To calculate your maximum loan size, what you would do is take the gross sales, right, gross revenues, deduct cost of goods sold, if any, right, and then that gives you the gross profit margin for 2019. And because we're providing 24 months worth of working capital needs, you multiply that number by 2, right? So that's 24 months or 2 years. And that gives you the maximum loan amount capped by the $2 million, max per business. So obviously, folks that received in 2020, $150,000 most likely have applied for an increase to $500,000 and now are eligible to request a second increase up to the maximum, right, of $2 million or 2 times their 2019 gross margin, whichever's, the lesser of the two amounts. So one of the major changes here, I should say, is the ability to use the funds from a COVID EIDL loan, right? So lower interest rate or lower cost of capital funds, I should say, to prepay, right, conventional commercial debt. So any debt you've got on the books, credit card debt, whether it is, lines of credit, term loans, as long as they're not federally guaranteed or federally issued, then you are able to prepay those debts. Okay. So again, providing you the increased flexibility and the ability to basically reduce overall, expenses, improve cash flow in your business, and again, weather this challenging time a little better. So again, I did mention the 24-month deferment period. I just want to stress again that it is not from the date you receive the increase, it's from the original date of the loan. So keep that in mind. We made some changes to, simplify some requirements that, the agency has in place for affiliates. We also made additional businesses eligible for the program. We consider this NAICS codes to be, the most challenged, the hardest hit industries, right? So for that reason, we afforded those businesses, right, that meet the requirements here. The requirement would be no more than 500 employees per physical location and no more than 20 locations altogether, right, to qualify individually as a location, and not be basically bound by the size standard. So again, the size standard that we have in place for each business, in order for a business to be considered a small business, for this next code is going to be based on each location separately and not in aggregate, right? The sales of all locations. Again, assuming that there are no more than 500 employees per physical location and fewer than 20 locations per, per basically, a single corporate group. So speaking of a single corporate group here, we also added a new limit, right? So again, the cap for one business is $2 million. The cap for a single corporate group is $10 million. So technically, right, a business that's eligible based on their 2019 tax returns, if they're under a single corporate group, right, but they file separate tax returns, they would be eligible, each one, for up to $2 million, not to exceed 10 million as a single corporate group. So I'm sure if anyone has any questions about that, we'll take them at the end. But here's some details, right? So with regards to the terms, the rate for nonprofits. So again, our traditional products, our traditional loan products, I should say, the 504, the 7A that the SBA offers are not, nonprofits are not eligible for to receive assistance, right? Whereas this program is basically, it's a little more flexible. It allows nonprofits, some religious entities, and so on and so forth. But in addition to being eligible for, for the COVID EIDL program, nonprofits do receive a reduced interest rate. So they get a break of about 1% on the rate. Obviously, the term is the same across the board. No prepayment penalties. That's the thing you want to keep in mind. Apply if you haven't done so. Reach out to us if you're having issues with, with the loan and getting it approved. And, again, this is patient capital. You can sit on it. We don't know, we don't know what we don't know, right? So we don't know how long the pandemic is going to last. We don't know if there's going to be more funding available. So take advantage of what's available now, right? And you can sit on it if you don't need to spend it right away. I think I talked enough about the deferment period and the accrued interest on during the deferment period. But here's an interesting, aspect of this program. So again, we have a minimum credit score of 570, and this is on the personal level. So your FICO has to be at a minimum of 570 or better for loans up to $500,000. Okay. There are no collateral requirements for loans, under 25,000, and loans up over 25 all the way up to $500,000 will require, a UCC filing. Okay. No personal guarantees for, again, the smaller loans, the 25,000 or less. And then there is a personal guarantee, for loans greater than 200,000. Okay. The difference with the larger loans, again, and I have it here in green. I don't know if everyone can see it. So larger loans greater than $500,000 require a higher credit score of 625 on a personal level. So your FICO has to be a minimum of 625. Apologies. And obviously, we're looking for additional collateral here. So not only the UCC filing, which is across the board for loans greater than 25,000. But also any business real estate will be, looked at, and we'll be looking to see or to get a security interest on that. Okay, personal guarantees, again, because the loans are greater than 200,000, those would be applicable. The other thing worth mentioning, and I do believe I have a slide a little later on that, is that loans over $500,000 have to demonstrate repayment ability through cash flow of the business. Okay. And for most businesses, 2019 was the better year, right? Because what each business has to certify to is that they experienced, some economic injury in 2020 as a result of the pandemic. So we've had scenarios where folks were saying, well, wait a second, I don't qualify based on 2019, but here's my 2020 and I qualify based on 2020. Well, technically, if your 2020 returns show a better year, better performance, greater, returns and profit margins than 2019, you really can't certify in good faith that you suffered an economic injury, right? Under very rare circumstances would a loan like that even be considered. Okay, so keep in mind, I do mention though that the rare circumstances that the businesses that were operational, before January 31st of 2020 are actually eligible, right? So even if you started your operations in December of 2019, you are eligible to receive assistance under this program. So technically for those businesses, 2020 would be better than 2019, right? Because 2019 is a partial year, and we've seen lots of cases like that, and obviously those are those rare scenarios where we will see, a loan approved if 2020 reflects a better results than 2019. But again, just want to reiterate the point here with regards to prepayment of commercial debt. So existing commercial debt can be prepaid with EIDL funds. You could use the funds from the EIDL loan to make regularly scheduled monthly payments, and so on and so forth. So the idea here, again, as I mentioned earlier, is that if you've got a loan that's at let's say 5 3/4, right, 2 points higher, with a repayment of 7 years, and it's not guaranteed, by the federal government, whether it's a direct loan or guaranteed by the federal government, any one of our agencies, that is. So USDA, SBA, EDA has some loans out there. NOAA has some loans out there, right? So business loans, that is. So if it's not federal debt, then you can use EIDL funds to prepay those loans, right? If it's a federal debt, if it meets that definition as I described it earlier, then you can only use the funds to make regularly scheduled, monthly payments. Cliff, could you give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me okay? Oh, good. All righty. So before we go to the next slide here real quick, so we talked about pretty much all of this, right? The affiliation rule, obviously our restaurant revitalization fund was in my opinion, I would say our best managed program. Obviously that's all done and over with, right? As of June of 2021. The affiliation rules that we basically adopted from the RRF to the COVID EIDL with the changes, they simply make more businesses eligible for the program, basically. So that's really what it comes down to. We talked about the size standards, right? So, again, we made changes that more small businesses would be eligible, even if those small businesses have multiple locations, right?
They are. Often you get 2 of these. Are these the gifts?
And folks, if I could remind you to just mute your own devices, we cannot, greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so then again, there was obviously the loan limit was capped, at $500,000, right? So there was no need, for additional limitations here, but because the cap was raised to $2 million, we created this single corporate group limit of $10 million. So technically, right, a chain, if for lack of a better term, that has, let's say, 5 restaurants owned by the same corporate group, right? And each restaurant qualifies for up to $2 million in assistance. They can get, the full $10 million, right? Each location files their own, tax returns. They have their own EIN number. They have fewer than 500 employees, right? Fewer than 220 locations altogether. So, again, more of this types of businesses, what we considered the hardest hit businesses, became eligible for assistance. So you can see it here on the screen, right? Educational services, a lot of the nonprofits fall in that category. Accommodation and food services, that's a good chunk of our portfolio. Arts, entertainment, you can read it yourself, right? So air transportation, scenic and sightseeing transportation, right? Rental and leasing services, personal and laundry services. And here at the very bottom, we've got the beverage manufacturers. I know that they, some folks I've heard, think that they did not suffer that greatly. But I tend to disagree. Many of the borrowers I worked with, the foot traffic accounts for a lot of their, sales. So obviously, that's one of those entities that is hardest hit. Okay, more updates here. So some timelines. I think this is important. And again, for the most part, 97% of applications is getting approved within this timelines. And again, there's a small number of applications that is taking a lot longer than this. Okay. But for the most part, if you have a, new application for less than $500,000, 3 to 4 weeks, you should be complete. Okay. Anything greater than $500,000, again, all the way up to the $2 million cap, it's taken about 6 weeks, right? So there was a point in time when we had a exclusivity period where you could only apply for up to $500,000, right? So that was between September and October. So it was September 8th to October 7th, I believe. So during that window, you could apply for an increase up to $500,000, which would take 3 weeks. And then you could apply, for the increase up to $2 million, which would take 6 weeks. So that process would take about 9 weeks. Now, we have seen lots of loans that were, denied for various reasons, right? Unverifiable information being one of them. For the most part, what that means is that the IRS could not find a tax return for your business, right? So we need that as in 2021, that is a must. We cannot process a loan without verifying with the IRS that you actually have an operating business, you file your taxes, and the IRS has a record of the taxes, and the taxes you provide to us match what you've filed with the IRS. So declines for credit, are common as well, but not like the unverifiable information. There are numerous reasons for the declines, right? Another common, a reason I've seen as a recently is, failing to respond in a timely manner, right? So loan officers, they reach out to you, they ask you to send everything they need to process the loan by a certain time. If you don't provide it, they will deny the loan, right? They'll send you a decline letter, but really they will suspend it. That doesn't mean it's been declined. Okay, so again, you have the right to ask for reconsideration on a decline, whatever the reason may be. So a reconsideration is taken about 4 weeks, okay, beginning to the end, and that's with all the completed documentation. You also have the right to an appeal of a second denial, right? So if you got denied once, you ask for a reconsideration, your reconsideration got denied, then you have the right to an appeal. Okay, those are taking a lot longer. So definitely 12 weeks. The 10 to 12 is more on the 12-week mark, I'd say, based on my experience. Okay, so we highly encourage folks, to take advantage of both the reconsideration and the appeal process. We have gotten some success. We've gotten some deals approved, especially during the reconsideration. The appeals are a little more challenging. But again, feel free to reach out to us here at the district office. The SBDC is a great resource. The chamber is a great resource. Again, we're here to help. And one last thing I did want to mention here. So I mentioned it earlier that only loans greater than $500,000 have to show, right, the repayment ability based on the cash flow of the business for 2019. Okay, so obviously the loan specialist, we have about 7,000 new team members here at the SBA, right? Contractors after the pandemic. So technically there's about 2,000 employees nationwide, with the agency. We hired 7,000 people in response to the pandemic. So a lot of those folks are working on these loan files, but obviously, only qualified loan specialists are working on this greater than $500,000 files because they require a little more technical expertise. So a repayment ability has to be there. The credit has to be higher. Full collateral analysis needs to be done. And obviously it follows what we call here, the rule of two. So two people have to agree to a decision. So both the loan officer and the team lead have to agree to the results and before they approve, right, these loans. Well, obviously we're talking, large dollars here, greater than $500,000, all the way up to $2 million, and sometimes 10 million with a single corporate groups. So, these are your taxpayer dollars. Again, the agency takes this very seriously. And obviously, the one thing worth mentioning here is that I know we have some lenders on the line as well. When we consider, right, when we look at the overall outstanding debts of the business, we're not discounting anything that the borrower may, consider paying off with this new loan. So the business has to show the ability to pay, both the existing debts as well as the new debt through the COVID EIDL. Yes, the terms are flexible. Yes, they're, they don't have a significant impact on the cash flow, but when the loans get larger than $500,000, they do. And only those businesses, only those borrowers that can demonstrate repayment ability for all existing debt plus the new debt through cash flow are going to get approved. Okay. So resources, again, our website's got lots of information. We've got some FAQs in there. We've got, the customer guide for the program itself. Obviously, there's a sample intake, a checklist for the borrowers. We've got guidance for how to complete your, 4560, which has been the IRS form, which has been, a challenge by itself. And obviously, the portal is very easy, simple to use. Again, I want to encourage everyone, to, if you haven't applied, go ahead, put your application through and, take advantage of this program well before the deadline. with that said, here's some contact information for us. Stay connected with the district office. We're a small team. There's really 13 of us here at the district office, but we've been able to do a lot for the Commonwealth and small businesses across the Commonwealth. So again, let's open it up to questions. Cliff, I know I went a little over the time allowed, but I hope we allowed for plenty of time for questions.
Well, I think we did, Eli, and I think some of them will have been answered, but I'll read them again anyway. The first question coming in, I answered one privately about labor law, but I submitted a request for consideration under the EIDL increase in early October. When could I expect a response? You kind of answered that as far as what size loan they're looking for, but go ahead, Eli.
Yes. So again, there are some loans that are a little more challenging than others. So obviously I mentioned a couple of things during the presentation. So fraud has been rampant on this program. And, we put some measures in place where, the system is now, the algorithm has been reworked to the extent where the slightest thing is going to raise a flag that needs to be addressed, right? So if the business is not found, let's say on public records, and lots of businesses are not, the loan officer has to manually override that flag, right? So there's a lot of, I'm just bringing that up as an example, right? But if DNB, for example, has no record of the business, that's our flag, right? So then we ask for additional information. We ask for tax returns. We want to make sure, the business does exist. We may ask for a narrative, right? So all sorts of things. So assuming that this loan does not have any flags, okay, then it should be approved within the 4-week window.
Thank you. Next question would be, my original application was declined, but in the new administration, the terms have been relaxed. Should I request reconsideration?
It all depends for what reason was it declined. So I would, highly encourage this individual to reach out to me here at the district office or any one of you guys, and let's review the decline reason first and foremost. Make sure that that's an eligible business, right, and something we can overcome.
Excellent. Next question: can I ask for additional funds to the loan already written if I elected not to take the full amount offer?
Yes. So you can ask for a reconsideration, right? And a modification of that loan is going to be done. Again, the loans are capped by your 2019 taxes and the gross profit margin. So 2 times that number is the most you can receive through this program.
Okay, next question. I also got granted PPP loan. So does that mean I should not apply for an EIDL loan? I will receive a monthly payments through December. I'm not sure what the second part of that means. Go ahead.
So PPP loans and EIDL are 2 separate programs.
Right. Yep.
Yes, initially they were tied together through the CARES Act, but the Economic Aid Act sort of decoupled the 2. Okay, and with that, there was some added clarity to the COVID EIDL, advance program, the grant fund component of the program as well. So yes, folks that received a PPP loan are eligible to receive a COVID EIDL loan. And obviously, the pandemic has lasted a lot longer than what was anticipated. Funds can be used, for the same purposes as long as they're not used during that covered period of the PPP loan. So example, right? You got payroll costs that you should have used within 24 weeks, right, from disbursement. As long as COVID EIDL funds are not used within that same 24-week window, you're perfectly fine, eligible to use them outside the window for payroll costs.
Good. Question came in, how we did an appointment, the number, and I won't read you the 27-digit number, still pending, please help. Probably that person should get in touch with you, Eli.
Yes, and certainly, when folks receive a copy of the presentation, my contact information is going to be there as well.
Okay. Where do new businesses align within this program, or is this available only to existing businesses prior to 2020?
So yes,
That's right.
the program is only available to businesses that were operational as of January 31st of 2020.
Right.
So it's pre-pandemic.
We have not used our original funding. Can we still apply for an advance in case we need the funds moving forward?
So an increase is probably what the individual is asking for. Yes,
Yes,
you should
yes,
ask for an increase and do it at the earliest. The best way to do it would be to go back to the portal. There is a blue button on your COVID EIDL portal that reads request additional funding or request an increase. So that's the best way to go about it.
Thank you. Can the funds be used for construction, the construction of employee housing, which would directly affect our ability to staff our schools/operations?
Unfortunately not. Construction is not an eligible use of funding.
Right.
However, there is a workaround. You could apply for a regular loan through one of our banks, right? As long as it's not federally secured, right? You could use idle funds to prepay commercial debt used for the business.
That's clever, Eli. I didn't even think of that. We also working on a restaurant bar that purchased 2019, but did not operate until now, that probably I'll be opening in January. Do we qualify for this loan?
Unfortunately not.
No. I have a small business in Fall River. We have 4 total employees. The official address of the business is my home due to mail issues, MAIL. My neighborhood is not in an included area. The physical address of the business, our day-to-day business, is in an included area. We took a huge hit during COVID. We did get the original loan, but we did not qualify for the $10,000 grant. We reapplied earlier this year, using a quarter that was upside down. A quarter? I don't know. Our 2020 numbers were okay for that quarter. Oh, okay. And then they dropped off. But my understanding was I had to use that particular quarter. I never heard anything. Can I reapply? And is the issue of my home address used for the official address of the business, or that I used particular quarter rather than the whole year showing economic injury? Did you get all that? Yeah, there's 2 things in there.
So, the individual raises 2 very valid, points here that,
Right.
that I want to touch on. So first and foremost, if your business is located in a low income community, you have to change your headquarters address to that, address and all other, information. So Facebook page needs to be updated. Your website needs to be updated. Everything that's a public record, right? Your address with the Secretary of State needs to reflect the address that's located in a low income community. Once that is done, right, then you can request the grant funds, and you must do so before December 31st of 2021. Now, the other aspect of this, question here is you have to demonstrate, right? You have to demonstrate the 30% decrease for the targeted EIDL advance for either the full 2020 as compared to the full 2019, or an 8-week window. Okay, 8 weeks does not equate to a quarter, right? So I think what the individual is referencing is a calendar quarter. And what you need to look at is an 8-week period in 2020 and compare that 8-week window, right, of time to the same exact period of time in 2019. And that has to show a 30% reduction for the targeted EIDL, or a 50 or greater percent reduction for the supplemental targeted EIDL program.
Okay, very good. Target advance, we qualify for 30% plus of the decline of revenue for 2019 versus 2020, but we are not in a low income community. Can we still apply?
Unfortunately, that is statutory. The way the Economic Aid Act was worded is that only the businesses located, right, in a low income community would be eligible.
Is there any way to reach out to a loan officer directly? I can't get past customer service where I get the same answer way over 12 weeks. Your reconsideration is in process. Thank you.
So sometimes, I cannot get a hold of a loan officer. So it's not possible, unfortunately. We have our channels through the district office that we can reach out to folks, but we are not allowed to reach out to loan officers. So we have to reach out to team leads who then reach out to loan officers. But again, this is internal information. The folks we're helping and we're working with, again, this is the proper channel we have in place and system. So, we reach out to team leads. We have a high priority group of folks that are assigned to the district office, and that's how we're getting a hold of loan officers.
And the next question is basically the same thing. Is there any way to reach out to loan officers? And you just answered that question.
Yes, so reach out to us here at the district office. We'll make sure that we address your concern. We reach out to somebody at ODA, expedite the loan, whatever the issue may be. But again, I have myself and 5 other people on our staff have full access to these files. So we can see in real time what's happening, what's going on, who's working on it, who's not, and so on and so forth. We, again, we don't have the ability to approve loans, but we can see what's going on with the loans.
Okay, great. Skip the announcement of the SBDC. We go to Shay M. Why is the SBA relying on 2019 IRS tax transcripts for approvals when that agency has an unprecedented backlog of 25+ million returns, and when Tax Advocate Service has stopped providing assistance for amended returns, even after alternate documentation has proved a business is legitimate, provided to the SBA as they requested? This is punitive and cruel for those with amended returns. Businesses like me cannot get help we actually need and have been waiting months and months, while many others are getting the funding they don't actually need.
Well, it's unfortunate, right, that this individual is in this position, right? So
Yeah.
Obviously, there is very little that we can do because the way the program was designed, and again, this was in response to an unusual amount of fraud, right? So in 2020, we made this program available to all businesses, those that were hurt. And we saw, a large number of fraudulent applications because there was no such requirement in place in 2020, right? So 2021, we implemented, this additional steps. And again, for default of a few bad actors, everyone has to pay the price. But there is no other way to truly verify what business is. Anyone can fill out a Schedule C or an 1120, right? To truly find out if that's an operating business, you have to verify it through a third party. And the IRS is a sister agency. It was not picked at random, right? It is, it's the official, right? It's the official way to really verify that the tax returns provided, from the business to the SBA and the loan officer are accurate. Those same returns filed with the government through the IRS.
Eli, the next question basically is asking you to put the contact information for the Mass District Office back on the screen. If you could back up one slide. Thank you. The next
Done?
Yes, done. The next 2 questions basically say, we weren't in business in 2019. Can we apply? And of course, Eli, unfortunately, go ahead. I opened my business this year. Am I eligible to apply?
Only
No.
businesses that were operational as of January 31st of 2020 or before.
Right. I run 2 different businesses. Would I be able to apply for both or just one? One is a nonprofit and one is for the self-employed.
So this individual would be eligible for both.
Right.
So eligible to receive 2 loans, as a matter of fact, because they can not have the same loan for. So again, if you had an individual that was a sole proprietor, let's say, and worked as an independent contractor doing something else, so 2 Schedule Cs, you could have two loans for the same individual because they were both for profit. In this, case, they have to be two separate loans because the terms vary. One has to be for the nonprofit, one has to be for the for-profit.
Different in interest rates, right? When should we expect information on repayment amounts? Is there somewhere we can access this information in order to potentially begin repayments early to reduce the accumulating interest amounts?
So, yes, there is a way to do it, right? So, individuals do have access to what we call the capital access financial system. So borrowers through the COVID EIDL program have the ability to set up access online to their account, their loan and information, right? And, make payments that way. Payments for, COVID EIDLs need to be, sent to the servicing center for this program. And that servicing center for us here in Massachusetts is in Birmingham, Alabama.
I think we answered the next one. How do we contact you? Because you just put it up there. Adelsa actually would like to ask a question. I want to ask a question that many businesses in Brockton has. You can ask for me if you prefer. Can someone use the funds to purchase the building their business is currently leasing?
Unfortunately, not for this program, right? So, but we do have a wonderful, 504 program, which is designed just for that. And as a matter of fact, the 504 rates are lower than the 3.75%.
Right.
So definitely would like this individual to reach out to you guys at the SBDC or one of our lending partners, to find out if they qualify for the 504 program.
And our contact information was put into the chat box already several times. Adelsa again says program overview is translated, but the application, it is not. Why? Only businesses that receive the invitation for the SBA can apply for targeted advance. For the ones that didn't receive, they are located in target areas. What is the application process?
So that's a very valid point. So there was a point in time when the SBA was only emailing an invitation to those addresses that were located in a low-income community. That policy has changed, right? So anyone can apply through their portal. Okay, if they're located in a low-income community, they don't need an invitation. So go back to your portal and request a grant, or just you could send an email to the it's called targeted advance reevaluation at sba.gov. I'll put it on the chat.
What if my business was a Schedule C in 2019 as a sole prop, but was set up as an LLC in 2002?
2020, Cliff. That should say
That's what I thought. I just read it. I said, I think that's a typo.
2020.
That's the way I would have typed it, Jill. 2020.
So this is it's doable. It's just not one of those loans that's going to get done in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a hiccup that we have to get a loan specialist, involved with, and just again have a set of eyes look at this and make the connection. But yes, eligible and would be, would qualify.
Well, the next question is, what other options do I have if I do not qualify for an EIDL loan? And I would recommend you contact one of the partners at msbdc.org and discuss it with an advisor. What do you say, Eli?
Most certainly, so
Yeah.
reach out to any one of our partners,
Right.
Obviously, as a lender, I would say, why wouldn't you be eligible for the EIDL loan, right? So
that's what we can try to help and determine with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is there any discussion on forgiving these loans?
No.
No. My business. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eli.
And this is very different from the PPP program, right? So it's a statutory requirement they get repaid.
Right.
The only reason we got more funding with the Economic Aid Act is because they were getting repaid.
My business is in the Brockton 02301, and they said this was not a low income area, and I was denied the targeted advance. Can I reapply for this?
So it doesn't go by, the mapping tool, right? It doesn't go by the zip code. It goes by the actual address. So
Right.
it could be within the same zip code,
Right.
and across the street, two different locations may not be, both in a low income community. I mean, I
Right.
have seen that as well.
Let's see. What is the minimum credit score again? 570, was it, Eli?
570 for loans under, $500,000, and
Yep.
it's 625 for loans greater than $500,000, up to $2 million max.
Eli, you done it again, kid. Congratulations. I don't know how you keep up with all the changes. I can't thank you enough, and I'm sure everybody else thanks you so much. Great presentation, great information. I appreciate it, and thank you to everybody who did join us. Again, we will be sending the tape to everybody who did sign up to come on. And thank you very much, Eli. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Adelsa. And everybody have a good day. Goodbye.
All right. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Eli. Great job.